The movie kicks off with Boston detective Spenser and his buddy, Driscoll, rolling up to Captain John Boylan's place. As soon as they step in, Spenser clocks that Boylan's been hitting the sauce, and it looks like his wife took a tumble. The scene gets wild as Spenser goes all out on Boylan, insisting it's all fair game. Spenser gets slapped with a 5-year prison stint, but he's counting down the days. Behind bars, he meets Squeeb, a dude tied to some nutty supremacist crew. Cue a showdown between Spenser and Squeeb's gang, but Spenser holds his own and walks free. His buddy Henry Somoli picks him up, but things get wacky when his ex, Sissy Davis, pops up out of the blue at the prison gates. Spenser, Henry, and Sissy hit the road in Henry's ride and crash at his new crib, where his pooch Pearl reigns supreme. Now the pad's got a new tenant, some dude named Hawk. Spenser's heart sinks when he realizes his furry friend, Pearl, has found a new bestie in this Hawk guy. It's like coming home and finding out your cat's now best pals with the neighbor's dog. Meanwhile, Boylan's just driving home, chit-chatting with his daughter on the phone, when out of nowhere, bam! A truck rams into him. Suddenly, it's like a scene from an action flick as these hooded figures jump out and start laying into him. Poor daughter's stuck on the line, listening to the whole mess. Turns out, they're furious at Boylan for blabbing, and one of them even pulls out a machete. It's like something out of a horror movie. The next morning, Letitia, a nurse, comes home to the worst scene imaginable. Her detective husband, Terrence, slumped over in his car, a bullet hole in his head. She's utterly devastated, sobbing uncontrollably while passersby try to offer some comfort. News about Boylan's attack spreads like wildfire. Now Spenser's under the microscope. Driscoll, along with another detective, shows up at his doorstep, grilling him to make sure he's not the one behind the wheel of that truck. Luckily, Spenser's got an airtight alibi. But even though Spenser's moved on to a new gig as a trucker, the cops just can't shake the suspicion. They're like those nosy neighbors who always think your barbecue's too loud, convinced Spenser's mixed up in this mess somehow. Terrence being suspected of the crime and the media painting him as guilty, even suggesting he took his own life, hits Spenser hard. He's feeling down about all this. When he sees Letitia on TV, all emotional, it hits him even more. He decides he's got to do something about it. He heads over to Letitia's place because he knew Terrence well and trusted him. Letitia spills the beans about how the cops seem to know exactly where to find hidden drugs at the crime scene. She also drops a bombshell that Terrence was last seen with Boylan, heading into a pub. So Spenser hits up the cop hangout, hoping for some info. He chats with another detective who might know something about Terrence and Boylan. Spenser even says sorry for roughing up Boylan earlier. But then, out of nowhere, Boylan's buddies in blue show up, start a ruckus, and toss Spenser out. Spenser's not one to give up, though. He heads to a nearby store, grabs security footage showing Terrence and Boylan chatting outside the bar. Back at his place, Hawk, Spenser's trusty sidekick, becomes the designated footage keeper while Spenser goes full-on detective mode at the crime scene, sniffing out any clues that might have slipped through the cracks. Meanwhile, Spenser decides to confront Driscoll at the gym because, let's face it, where else would you find a tough guy like Driscoll? But Driscoll's all like, nah, not me, bro, even though Spenser found his trademark toothpick at the scene. After the gym showdown, Spenser and Hawk hit up a local joint for some grub. But things take a nosedive when Spenser spots his ex, Sissy, across the room. Talk about a mood killer. They end up having a deep chat in the restroom, of all places. Sissy brings up some old drama about a pregnancy scare, and Spenser's like, phew, dodged a bullet there. As they leave the restaurant, they spot the very same Corvette from the surveillance footage. Spenser's like, I gotta catch that, and takes off on foot. But just when he thinks he's got the upper hand, a surprise guest shows up, a guard dog with a bone to pick. Spenser gets a not-so-warm welcome, but Hawk saves the day by nabbing the license plate. With the plate number in hand, Spenser puts on his best tough guy act at the DMV, giving the clerk a run for their money until they spill the beans. Turns out, The car belongs to none other than Charlie Bentwood from the Tracksuit Gang. Meanwhile, Spenser, Hawk, and Henry kick back and spy on Bentwood getting a massage. Because even gangsters need some R&R. Spenser takes a trip down memory lane, remembering his younger days and his connection to Boylan and Gloria Wisniewski. Back then, he'd shovel snow off Gloria's mom's porch, while Gloria herself fought against neighborhood changes as an activist. Things took a dark turn when Bentwood's goons tried to scare Gloria off her mission, but she stood strong. However, when she found her cat tied to the door and later ended up dead, it shattered Spenser's world. He had to break the news to Gloria's grieving mom. Watching the surveillance footage of Gloria's murder, Spenser realized Boylan had been sitting on the case all along, and that made him see red. So he paid Boylan a not-so-friendly visit at home. Meanwhile, Hawk decided to give Bentwood's Corvette a new paint job, hoping to rile him up. They kept a close eye on Bentwood until a couple of FBI agents crashed the party, warning Spenser to back off. Spenser paid a visit to Squeeb in the hospital, hoping for some inside info. After some convincing and a little blackmail involving footage of Hawk on a date, Squeeb spilled the beans about Wonderland. With the help of journalist Wayne Cosgrove, they discovered Wonderland was actually a crooked gambling ring involving dirty cops and criminals. When Spenser went to snoop around Wonderland, he ran into trouble with the gang members and had to beat a hasty retreat. Meanwhile, Boylan's funeral was a big to-do, complete with military honors, while Terry's was more low-key, just close friends and family. Elsewhere, Driscoll and his buddy Macklin were deep in a serious chat about some sketchy business that could spell trouble if it got out. And just when Spenser thought he could grab a bite at a restaurant, he ran into the Trinitarios gang. Spenser fights off the Trinitarios gang like a boss until Hawk rolls in with his wheels, saving the day. But now that his cover's blown, Spenser decides to play it safe and hides Pearl and Hawk with Sissy to keep them out of harm's way. Later, Spenser visits Letitia's place, only to find it trashed. She hands him an audio tape that Terrence had kept, exposing Boylan's dirty dealings. Turns out, Boylan, Bentwood, Macklin, and Driscoll were all in cahoots. And Driscoll was the one who delivered the fatal blow. Fired up for justice, Spenser hands the tape over to the FBI, hoping it'll nail Driscoll. But the feds ain't biting, so Spenser decides to handle things himself. With a steely resolve, Spenser hunts down Bentwood, who spills the beans about a drug shipment bound for Wonderland. Time's ticking, so Spenser and Hawk hit the road, chasing down the truck in a wild, high-speed pursuit. They take out a couple of goons and uncover a stash of drugs. But just when they think it's over, Driscoll's voice cuts through the chaos, revealing he's got Henry hostage. Spenser's got no choice but to make a risky move, meeting Driscoll in Wonderland within the hour. With Hawk by his side, they crash through the syndicate's cars like action heroes on a mission from above. In the heat of battle, it all culminates in an epic showdown between Spenser and Driscoll, a clash of brains and brawn. Driscoll almost snatches victory, but Spenser's indomitable spirit prevails. Instead of stooping to Driscoll's level, Spenser stays true to his principles, resisting the urge for revenge. With Driscoll behind bars and the law closing in on his cronies, they're left to face the music. Terrence finally gets the justice he deserves, with a hero's funeral and a scholarship for his son. As the dust settles, Spenser, Hawk, Henry, and Terrence toast to their hard-earned victory over a hearty meal. But the fight for justice never truly ends. A news report catches Spenser's eye, hinting at another case in the making. It's a reminder that there's always more work to be done. As Henry and Sissy ponder what lies ahead, Spenser gears up for the next challenge, ready to keep fighting for the truth. And so, the saga continues. The end.